Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Well, hey there, my fellow author, and welcome to this episode of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today we are on week 2 of my D.R.A.F.T framework. That is my complete roadmap for learning to dictate your fiction. Now, last week we covered the letter D in the framework, and D is for devices. And if you did your action step, you tapped that little microphone on your phone, you spoke a sentence, and watched your words appear on the screen, which means something official happened last week. You became a fictator in training. So today, your training really begins as we get into R of the D.R.A.F.T framework, and R is for reps. Now, maybe you did try that first sentence last week and thought, well, that was fine, that was kind of cool, but there's a really big canyon between speaking a sentence or speaking some notes into your notes app, like brainstorming your story, and dictating an actual novel. If that's where you are, you're exactly right. There is this canyon, and nobody should be expected to just jump it in a leap. So today I'm going to give you the bridge. I've got 3 reps for you in order that take you from I've never dictated a word of fiction to a daily practice that makes dictation feel automatic. So let's get into it. There's this belief that just kills more dictation journeys that I've seen than any technology or technical hurdle. And that's the belief that dictation is just this switch that you flip, that you should be able to open up a dictation app and just start talking and have this beautiful prose, this wonderful fiction just pour out. And when it doesn't, authors decide that, dictation just isn't for me. But I want you to think back to when you learned how to type. Your first attempts were likely slow. They were error-filled, you were hunting for keys, hunting and pecking, and you typed TEH instead of THE, which honestly I still do, but maybe you did that hundreds of times, and then somewhere along the way, with enough repetition, your fingers just knew, and the keyboard disappeared. Now you don't think about typing at all. You think about your story, and the words show up. Dictation follows that same arc. It is slow and awkward at first. Then you become fluent in it, and then it becomes invisible. And these reps that I talk about, these are like your keyboard drills. This is practicing dictation. And inside my framework, I call this digging the trench, because every rep digs that practice path in your brain a little deeper, that new neural pathway that you need to make dictating as natural as typing. And then one day, that trench is deep enough to carry the story all by itself. You cannot dig the trench by reading about dictation. You can't dig it by researching apps. And we talked about the maximizer trap last week. You dig that new neural trench by speaking a little bit, on purpose, intentional, over and over. So let me hand you the shovel. 3 reps. Here's the first one. Rep 1 is read aloud to your device. Your first step in learning how to dictate fiction is not dictating your novel. It's not even making up sentences of fiction. It is simply reading aloud to your device. So I want you to grab something that's already written. It can be a page from a novel that you love or a page of your own work. then I want you to open your dictation function, whether that's just your built-in speech to text on your phone, or maybe you're trying out the Fictate app, my new Fictate app. I want you to open up whatever it is that you have going and start your dictation function or start your recording and read about 500 words from that novel or something that you've written. So going for about 2 pages here. And I want you to just read that out loud. No punctuation, no editing, no stopping to fix anything. And if the transcript comes out a little messy, that's totally fine. You're not grading the transcript. You're doing one thing. You're confirming that when you speak, words appear. You're just letting your brain get used to that feel of talking out loud to a device on purpose, especially just letting those words of fiction come out of your mouth. And this is that bridge over the canyon that I was talking about. That gap between never dictated to dictating my novel is too wide to cross in just one step. And that's why we don't. Reading out loud takes away every hard part except one, the speaking itself. And with this, you don't have to invent words. You don't have to punctuate. You just speak words that already exist and watch them land on the page. That's it. That is rep 1. Do it once, and you've officially started digging that trench. Now, rep 2 is where I answer the question I get almost more than any other. What about punctuation? Now, you have 3 options, and I'm going to lay out all 3 of them for you and tell you which one is my favorite. So option 1 is auto-punctuate, and that is where you let the software insert punctuation where it believes it needs to go, and that can be really powerful if you have a good software. Like my Fictate app is trained specifically on punctuation for fiction authors, but just know that no auto-punctuate is going to be as precise as what you can be with dialogue and exclamation points. It doesn't necessarily know exactly where you want your paragraph breaks, but just know that a lot of authors are choosing to use auto-punctuate and then go back in and tweak their punctuation in their cleanup or in their editing phase. Option number 2 is adding the punctuation in manually afterwards when you're doing cleanup. And I know a lot of authors who just love the freedom of talking and they want to go in and put their punctuation in. This was popular back before we had a lot of the auto punctuate options where authors just went in and manually put that in there. But I'll tell you, for fiction, that cleanup gets heavy fast, inserting all of the punctuation. So for most fiction authors, I don't recommend it. You're going to want to do auto-punctuate or option number 3, which is speaking your punctuation. This is my method. This is what I trained myself in doing whenever I was first learning how to dictate, and it is my recommendation for you. You are saying all of the words out loud. Period, open quote, close quote, new line. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, like, wow, I can't speak that punctuation out loud, or it's going to really jolt me out of my story if I say comma right in the middle of my character's big moment. And I know it does feel that way starting out. It felt that way for me too. It feels really foreign until it becomes invisible. And with daily practice, that is what happens. It becomes just like the keyboard. You stop hearing yourself say it. Today, when I speak my punctuation and my character's dialogue at full speed, I promise you, my writing flow stays intact. So here's your rep 2 exercise. I want you to take that same piece that you were reading out loud for your first rep and read it again, and this time speak the punctuation. All the periods, quote marks, paragraph breaks, you can just say new line or new paragraph, and do still expect a mess. I want you to hear me say that. Expect a mess. One of my dictation boot camp students from a year or so ago, Casey, she came in wanting to, do everything right in that first session. Like she wanted to learn what it was all about and get it right out the gate. But her breakthrough didn't come from having perfect technique. It came when she gave herself permission to be messy in this learning phase. So that is your permission today. If you need that with dictation, just expect the mess and give yourself permission for the learning process to be messy. Because honestly, when we're digging a trench, there's gonna be a mess. That said, if ultimately you decide to go with auto-punctuate with your fiction, you're totally allowed to do that. but I want you to at least give it a try. I want you to at least practice it a few times before you decide. Now, rep number 3 is the one that changed my writing life. And I don't say that lightly. If you've read the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, you know about morning pages. 3 pages, about 750 words. You write them every morning. No audience, no structure, no pressure. It is just a brain dump. Whatever is in your head, getting it out onto the page so that you can clear and sweep away all the cobwebs and you're ready to get into your creative work. For a few years, I had a morning pages habit already where I was handwriting my morning pages, incredible exercise. But one morning, I decided to dictate them instead of handwriting them. And I didn't know how many words I was getting per minute or when I hit my 750. So I just kind of went for a little while and then had my app transcribe. And then I was able to see my word count. And it was incredible. It was my first experience with really dictating. And after a while of doing it, I really wanted to see how much faster is this than handwriting? Because it would take me up to 30 minutes to handwrite those 3 pages. And not that morning pages are a rush. I'm just like most authors. I'm like, how many words per hour am I getting? One of my times, I went ahead and intentionally timed it and checked my minutes, checked my words afterwards. And in my fastest session, I dictated my morning pages, 750 words in 6 minutes. And I just remember staring at that word count and doing the math. Like I said, my morning pages usually took up to a half an hour to do that. And I had basically just emptied my whole head, all the thoughts that were swirling around in my head onto the page in 6 minutes. And that was the moment. Not a podcast, not a blog post, not someone else's success story. That number on my own screen was the moment I knew I had to master this skill of dictating my fiction, because I had just seen what was at the end of the trench once I had that dug. And so this is why morning pages are the perfect rep 3 for us in learning how to dictate. This is letting you practice dictation without the fiction. You're not trying to remember your plot. You're not trying to write the next great novel. You're not trying to be coherent or imagine your scenes or create this brilliant prose. No one is ever going to read your morning pages. At least that's the general idea. No one is ever going to read this. This is pure, pressure-free trench digging every single morning. And so that is your assignment. After you do your other 2 reps, I want you to dictate your morning pages. And not to mess up your morning pages habit, if you already are handwriting them, this is something you can do on top of those or switch out for a time. But you are wanting to dictate your morning or evening pages. It's going to be about 750 words every day for 30 days. You can take off the weekends if that's your normal for morning pages, or if you keep a Sabbath of rest day like I do, you can totally skip that guilt-free. But I also want to keep you in mind that 30 days isn't a magic number. I just want you to be moving forward with practicing your dictation on a regular basis. And one real session of dictated morning pages qualifies you to keep going with me to the next letter, which we're going to get to next week. And because 30 days is not a gate, it's just your daily digging while we keep building this skill of dictating your fiction. Now, let's be honest about the mornings you don't want to dictate. You don't want to practice this skill of dictation, but because reps are reps, there are some days that resistance will show up and you're going to want to push through that. And I have 3 techniques for you, and I know one of them might sound a little strange. The first one is to laugh. Before your session, just laugh for 5 or 10 seconds. And I'm serious, make yourself do it, even fake laughing, because there's this shift that happens and it loosens up the tension that speaking out loud feels hard. Is it silly? Yes. Does it work? Absolutely. I just did it in preparation for recording this podcast episode. So if you ever have something that you're just feeling that mental resistance, but you want to push through, you know you need to push through, just give yourself 5 or 10 seconds to laugh and then get into it. The second is to gamify this practice. Whenever you've done your morning pages by dictation, put a sticker on your calendar. Just give yourself a check mark. Just start yourself a streak, whether it's in a physical planner or on a tracker app. because I don't care how many books you've written or published, our brains still love a gold star. And the third thing is rest. If you're dragging, just take 5 quiet minutes before you start. And I'm not talking about scrolling on social media or going and watching videos. You may need to just give your brain an opportunity, just a couple of minutes to be quiet and rest. I had one author who would back her way into sessions by narrating her own confusion. She would just start talking about how she didn't know what to say until somewhere in there, she was saying things. There is no right or wrong way of getting into your morning pages, of getting into dictation. You just want to begin. Now, let me put the shovel in your hands. Your action step this week is the 3 reps in order. So just start with reading out 500 words, a couple of pages from pre-existing fiction aloud to your dictation function, whether it's your built-in or, like I said, if you're using an app like Dictate. I want you to just read those off, no punctuation, don't worry about the mess, that's totally expected, and then give it a try reading them again with the punctuation, even if it's messy, because when you're doing punctuation for the first time, and even when you're reading off from pre-existing fiction, you're going to miss parts, it's going to feel awkward. Let all of that happen. And then I want you to dictate 1 morning pages session. It can be this morning. If you're listening to this on your morning walk and you know you're about to get into your writing, just go ahead and dictate your morning pages for today, or evening pages tonight. You're going for about 750 words, should take 10 minutes or less. If it takes longer, that's totally fine. Just take a look at your time when you're done and compare it to the number of words that you captured on the page. And that's when this whole dictation and the power of it in your writing life starts to feel real. And if you get to your own 6-minute moment where you did 750 words in 6 minutes, or maybe even less, I would love to hear about it. Come on over to my Substack at fictioncourses.substack.com. Drop me a comment on this episode and let me know what you did so I can celebrate it with you. And if you want to do your reps in a tool that was built exactly for this, my app Dictate is officially out of beta and open to everyone. It's the only dictation app I know of designed specifically for dictating fiction authors. And there's a free trial waiting for you over at dictateapp.com. And that's dictate with an F instead of a D. And you can also just search Dictate in the App Store or on Google Play. And I can tell you this from experience, your reps will feel different in a tool that isn't fighting you. Now, next week, we are digging into the letter A. A is for approach in the D.R.A.F.T framework. And it turns out there's really not a right way to approach dictating your fiction. There are 3 roads into your story world, and I'm going to help you pick the one that matches your brain, including the method I do today, which involves not looking at the screen at all. You don't want to miss that one. That's all for this week, my fellow author. I will see you in the next episode of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast. Take care.